Now, the first thing I wanted to conquer so that I could put on my artifact list right at the top were the moraines. And I thought here in this defined channel, I might finally see the boundary between moraine and not moraine. Well, this DEM map, Digital Elevation Model Map, shows how challenging this might be. Now here's a spot with a clear border between the moraine and the spillway. Well, here's some sheep. I arrived at bedtime for them. They're on the Defiance Moraine, but their pasture has a wide view of the Defiance Spillway to the north. Moraines outline the shape of the glacial lobes. They mark the stall points of these great lobes, these big sublobes, in their retreat, in their melting phase, which lasted centuries. Well, it's stranger than fiction. Even though the ice might be a mile high with super dense ice, it still has extraordinary internal movement and a constant conveyor belt type action bringing material forward to the margins of the ice. And this jumble of stuff is called a till. Clay and pebbles and boulders all together in one pile. This is what moraines are made of. And this moraine on the west side of our local spillway is the Fort Wayne Moraine, named for its nose end at Fort Wayne, Indiana, and the little parallel one next to it, lower, but something to fall in love with. It's our wonderful Ice Age artifact here. The Defiance Moraine, and its nose end is at Defiance, Ohio. Right here in the Tecumseh Adrian area where the rail trail is, there's a driving loop we can make that takes us across the lake plain, over the Defiance Moraine, through Tecumseh, up into the Irish Hills, prowl around at will up there where all these wonderful lakes are in the highland, and then back by a different route down to Adrian, and back over the Defiance Moraine out to the lake plain again, making a circuit of it, and gaining the eye to see those different zones. And then if you can get a hold of one of these DEM maps that show the roads, then you can pursue high points in the landscape, high points on the moraines, drive to them, and educate your eye to that beautiful glacial surface geology. Well, driving that circuit, we see this tremendous contrast between the flat lake plain and the sandy, hummocky hills up here in the Interlobate. The Interlobate highland. It's a highland because of the protruding Marshall sandstone here. And this highland actually steered the flowing lobes of ice as they entered Michigan out of Canada. And it's interlobate because this is the area that opened up and carried away meltwater between the lobes during those long centuries of disintegration. This is the outwash zone. This is the waterborne area. Massive quantities of water flowing through here and separating particles by size. And making the highland even higher is the amount of material that came washing out of those melting lobes. So much material was brought in here by flowing water that it covered up disintegrating blocks of ice, and eventually those became our kettle lakes. This highland is our lake district, and the outwash material all around those lakes is very stony. I like the way this drawing has all these polka dots. I think of those as stones, and not just little stones, pebble-sized stones. We have these beautiful mounds of sand, but we also have a lot of stones in the Interlobate. And on the USGS map, that's this yellow, GG, glacial gravel. The gray, 2 tones of gray, are hummocky hills, till, but with a high sand content. And the green is a loamy till. The brown, 2 tones of brown, are clayey till. Those are our moraines all around the bowl of the Erie Basin. Well, today the highland is a highland and the lake plain is the lowland. But at the time of all this melting, that highland, that interlobate, was like a valley between mountains, mile-high mountains of ice, with water flowing down off those mountains of ice and out from under those mountains of ice into this crevice, this valley, flowing heavily, strongly with glacial meltwater and filling up with that glacial debris. Lots and lots of stones and sand, mounds and hills of sand, but also sand carried very far by that flowing water. Here's that interlobate stretching across 3 or more counties. Now, the extraordinary quantity of outwash deposits in the interlobate has made it famous for those deposits and those kettle lakes. But amazingly, down here in our spillway between Tecumseh and Adrian, we also have an extraordinary deposit of outwash sand and gravel. But it's hidden under the roads, it's out of sight under everybody's lawns and houses. And so I didn't fully acknowledge this deep blanket of sand, or I should say aggregate, as a major artifact here in the spillway until I got to the trailhead at Tecumseh. Prowling around the area looking for that trailhead, I found something I did not expect. Directly across the road from the trailhead there at Ives Road is a very large, no longer mined, or mostly it seems, no longer mined quarry with filled with beautiful, beautiful water. It's completely off limits, but the rail trail, the rail line that used to run through it, is the same rail line that the Kiwanis Trail is built upon. How we wish the Kiwanis Trail could go through this area the way the original rail line once did. Oh my goodness, I was smitten by that beautiful lake surrounded by sand. And throughout the rest of this project, I kept looking for another similar place where I could actually go in legally and touch the water and walk through the sand. Before seeing that wonderful quarry lake, I had just not fully understood the depth and the breadth of this sand, this glacial gravel, and the value here. Well, I made a full reconnaissance of the spillway looking for other quarries, other beautiful lakes. I found that most of the quarries are camouflaged. A very exciting thing I found was this former quarry south of Adrian that is now adaptively reused for housing lots. Housing lots which have lakefront property with clean groundwater. And one day I was actually invited down into this pit just north of Tecumseh. Oh, this is a big, busy pit. Super exciting to be down there. Underneath the aggregate, I was told, these huge, beautiful boulders are being found at a depth of 80 to 100 feet. Now, the surface of the spillway, the non-eroded surface, is consistently 800 feet from Tecumseh to Adrian, away from where the Raisin has eroded. And then this map shows bedrock depth in the spillway, generally about 650 feet. So in between, there lies 150 feet, about, of glacial deposits. Now, these boulders may have been deposited way before the outwash phase. Or maybe they are outwash that were involved in a very strong floodwater.
I want to know how she's going to lift those big rocks.
Yeah.
So that's for sale, and that's going to be housing lots?
Yes. We definitely care about wildlife here, and the lake is full of big bullfrogs, turtles, fish, all kinds of different birds that come in, migratory birds that you don't see other places. Visit here.
Well, the elephant in the spillway that we have to look at is the river valley. When I first saw this river, I was shocked. And this great gouge or gash in the spillway contrasts with the level 800-foot floor of the non-eroded part of the spillway, from Tecumseh all the way down to Sand Creek and beyond. It's the River Raisin that flows through this spillway. It begins in the Irish Hills. The main stem goes through Tecumseh, but not through Adrian. Out through Dundee and then on out to Lake Erie in the shape of a question mark. The river is named for these wild grapes, and we maintain the French word order. Well, if that beautiful quarry lake on Green Road is the beauty, this river raisin with the elegant French name is the beast. Well, I should say the river channel in the spillway. Wow, this is a very strange, and in fact even scary looking river channel. The bluffs are steep and arcuate, and the bottom of the river channel is wide as a basin. This wide floodplain is flat. And the widest part of that channel is this 2-mile wide confluence area, right between Adrian and Tecumseh, where the south branch meets the main stem head on. In this channel that used to be a one-way outwash corridor. Well, the history of this strange river valley was a big question for me. And I looked for viewpoints along the rim of this Raisin Channel, and I did find a couple of spots, but the best one was here at the Ives Road Fen Preserve. The trail does not go down into the basin, but the drama of the area can be experienced, especially as the trail goes along the very rim. Now just look at this. This is a spent quarry, leaving just barely a crest trail between the cavity of the quarry and the wide basin of the river. And this former gravel pit is full of young cottonwood trees. Beautiful rustling sound. But for now, the mystery of the widely eroded Raisin Channel remained.